What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Loop Podcast. You are now in the Loop. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Loop Podcast, episode 6. We took last week off. Um, Super busy last week. Didn't really have the time to give you guys a good episode. Um, but I'm actually kind of glad that we waited because honestly, we've got an absolute banger today. We've got so many different things to talk about. Um, some trades, some big trades in the NBA. Obviously, the Knicks winning the finals, and a couple other things that I want to touch on. So, without further ado, once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Loop Podcast, episode 6. And before we even jump into the podcast, you guys know the drill, right? So I'm asking you guys to do me a huge favor. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the pod because that is a big thing for us here at the Loop Podcast. We need the love, we need the support. So go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, because that's where we post all the short form videos. So some of your favorite moments from this episode are going to be posted there on TikTok and on Instagram. So go ahead and make sure you follow. And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, your family, coworkers, and everybody else that needs to know. Because obviously you guys know that we can't grow, right, unless you guys share this podcast. So go ahead and do me that huge favor. Because like I said, it means a lot to me. And it just helps the podcast get a little bit bigger. And, the more people we have, entertained, the better, right? Informed. And obviously, you want to keep everybody in the loop, right? So make sure you guys share, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Because if you're not doing it, you're doing it wrong, man. So first things first, though, what I do want to talk about, again, let me say it one more time. Welcome to the Loop Podcast. Now, the first thing that I do want to talk about here in this episode, episode 6, is going to obviously be the Knicks winning the NBA Finals. Now, realistically, I think that prior to this series starting, if you would have asked me how many games I think this series goes, I would have said at least 6 games. I would have been wrong. This game went 5. This series went 5 games. The Knicks win the finals in 5. They close it out in San Antonio. And on top of that, in the final game, Brunson scores 45 points and, of course, wins the finals MVP. I also saw somewhere that apparently Jalen Brunson has won 7 awards this season. They won the NBA Cup. He won the NBA Cup MVP. So that's 2. The Eastern Conference Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, the NBA Finals, the NBA Finals MVP, and I believe the Rising Stars Challenge as well, or the Skills Challenge, one of those from All Star Weekend. But yeah, shout out to Jalen Brunson. That man balled out. While his shooting percentage may not have looked incredible throughout the NBA Finals, he still performed when he needed to. And, hats off to him. Now, one thing I want to highlight about that Knicks Finals win is the fact that they erased double-digit deficits in all 5 games. So at one point in every single game, they trailed by double digits, and they came back to win every single time. They also completed the largest comeback in finals history in game 4. They were down 29, came back to win that game. Now, this is their first title since 1973, so it's been very long overdue for the organization. But the one thing I do want to say here is that while the Knicks did perform extremely well, enough to win the NBA Finals, it kind of just goes to show the difference in the experience, right, between the Knicks and the Spurs. That's one thing I think should be absolutely highlighted here is the fact that the Spurs have such had such a young team. Obviously, Dylan Harper, right, a first year guy. Stephon Castle, a second year guy. Wemby, a third year guy. Um, you know, those are the guys leading their team. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox too, who had a pretty poor performance in the NBA Finals, making a lot of mistakes. For example, when he stole the ball and proceeds to go for the layup, gets blocked when he should have just held onto the ball to run out the clock. Um, but Victor Wembanyama, performed well, but was kind of a no-show in the fourth quarter. Um, Realistically, I do think that the best player consistently in that NBA Finals for the Spurs was Dylan Harper. And apparently, there's a report that he is going to be pushing for a starting spot coming into next year. And, um, it's understandable, with how he played. I understand that why he wants to ask for a starting role, and it's just going to be tough to move a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who's making over $50+ million a year, to the bench, and you really can't trade him because that contract is pretty hefty. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But again, shout out to the Knicks for closing it out and being able to win the NBA Finals. Now, um, the next thing that I want to talk about is some news. Again, I'm kind of glad that we waited because this came out. Giannis was traded to the Miami Heat alongside Bobby Portis for Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware, 3 first-round picks, including number 13 in this year's draft. The draft did just happen on what was it, Wednesday, I believe, or Thursday. Actually, no, I think it happened on Tuesday. I can't remember. It happened one of these days. I think it was Tuesday was the first round. And that first year or that first draft pick that was traded from the Miami Heat ended up turning into Nate Ament from Tennessee. For the Milwaukee Bucks and with that number 13 slot, and then a first round swap and a second round pick. But realistically, I'm not a fan of this deal. I do think that the roster for the Miami Heat is absolutely decimated, and they have very little money to work with this offseason. And of course, the other thing is that there's no shooting on this Heat roster. Um, they had a guy like Norman Powell. Norman Powell is absolutely going to be wanting a lot of money. He played exceptionally well with the Heat last year. He's going to want to get paid, and the Heat just don't have enough money to pay him, and that is going to hurt them. And realistically, as I mentioned, there's not a lot of shooting on this team. I think they're going to be a solid team defensively. Obviously, you got Davion Mitchell, pretty solid defensive point guard. And then you got Giannis, you got Bam, you got Andrew Wiggins. But again, outside of those guys, um, and even including those guys, where is the 3-point shooting going to come from? I just don't see it. I really don't see it. Um, I'm not sure if Giannis specifically pushed to go to the Heat or this was just the best offer on the table. Apparently, there was a rumored uh, potential trade to the Celtics that involved Jaylen Brown and some picks. Um, Realistically, if I'm the Bucks, this is absolutely a great deal for you. Getting Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware, and multiple first-round picks. Them getting Khalil Ware definitely kind of signals to me that they are also going to try to move Miles Turner at some point this offseason. So that'll be interesting to see where he goes because of the fact that Khalil Ware is probably going to be their starting center. And, you know, obviously, if you don't have to pay a guy like Miles Turner that large of a contract, then why do it? It's just going to be about the return that they can get. But again, ultimately, I really do think that the Bucks win this trade. Obviously, the Heat get Giannis, right? But I would argue that the Bucks have, especially after that trade, have a better roster than the Heat and are more likely to just be a little bit more competitive because again, I think the lack of shooting is going to absolutely hurt the Miami Heat. But we'll see, right? But speaking of trades, the next one I got to talk about is LaMelo Ball was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that happened today. I'm recording this on Thursday, so you guys are obviously going to see this on Friday. Um, June 26th. I'm recording this on June 25th. And, you know, this trade happened this morning where LaMelo Ball was traded to the Timberwolves for Naz Reid, a 2033 first round pick, 3 first round pick swaps, 3 second round pick swaps. Um, don't really know how I feel about this. Um, Ant finally does get a really solid point guard to play with, though. But they did also just sign Aoty to a 5-year, $112 million deal. Um, I think that Minnesota is betting on LaMelo Ball staying healthy, um, him continuing to mature as a decision maker. And, the other thing is the fact that they are now going to have a very thin front court. Um, After they traded off Julius Randle, who, by the way, was traded for pennies on the dollar, they traded him and the 28th overall pick in the NBA draft this year for the 33rd overall pick. So they were very much ready to get get Randall off their books. Yeah, so sorry about that. But yeah, they were absolutely ready to get Julius Randle off of their books. So um, yeah, I mean, with that contract gone and Reed's contract gone, and both of them off the team, I think they are going to lack size because their starting lineup is most likely going to look like LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, Ayo, and Jaden McDaniels alongside Rudy Gobert. So not really a huge fan of the size portion, um, you know, of this team. But I think overall, Anthony Edwards is a guy that can play defense. Desumu can play some defense. McDaniels and Gobert obviously are known more for their defense than their offense. Um, you know, and I think that can help, clean up some of the defensive liabilities that LaMelo Ball brings. But I think the biggest thing here is they're taking that huge swing, like I said, on his health. LaMelo has struggled throughout his career staying healthy, and I think he hasn't really ever played winning basketball. They took a step forward, the Charlotte Hornets last season, making the play-in, but ultimately, LaMelo Ball has not been in a winning situation for the majority of his career. So it's going to be interesting to really kind of see um, who is going to have to maybe take a step back, um, and really kind of how that dynamic between Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball kind of shapes out to be. So I am interested in seeing it. So we will have to keep an eye on that. But realistically, when you talk about the Wolves, I still don't think they're good enough to compete with the Thunders and the Spurs of the Western Conference to try to make an NBA Finals. Um, I think it's going to be very hard for them to do so. They don't have the deepest bench. Obviously, now they lack size as well, so it's going to be extremely tough in the Western Conference. But I do think that overall, the talent that LaMelo Ball is, um, maybe they can make it work, and we'll see what the Wolves can cook up this upcoming season. Now, um, now the next thing I want to talk about is the biggest sporting event of the year, and that is the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Now, um, as you guys know, I have never really talked about soccer on this podcast or the Figures of Sport podcast, right? So, soccer was never really like a huge thing for me. I was always more of a baseball, basketball, football kind of guy. But whenever the World Cup does come on, I definitely tune in. It's super fun to watch. Um, you know, every few years and getting to kind of witness that level of play um, in soccer is fun, and I wish that it kind of kept me more intrigued for other soccer events throughout the year, but it's kind of hard, especially too because the most competitive soccer leagues are obviously in Europe, and the time difference and just sometimes doesn't work out. But the World Cup is absolutely something that I pay attention to, and I feel that it's only right that we predict the winner, because as we are recording this, I'm trying to see, make sure, but the round of 32 has obviously not started yet, and that is going to start um, very soon. So the first games of the round of 32 are going to take place on June 28th. Um, that matchup is already set between Canada and South Africa. That is the first game. Then the rest of the games are going to follow on June 29th, June 30th, July 1st, uh, 2nd, 3rd, etc. So um, within the next week, everything will be set and the round of 32 play will begin. Um, but again, I think here it's only right we predict who we think is going to come out on top in the World Cup. And right now, I would have to say that it is France. I think France is the best overall team. Obviously, Argentina is the reigning champion, with Lionel Messi having that elusive World Cup title in the 2022 um, FIFA World Cup. So, I do think though that France, like I said, is just the best team overall. I do like Spain a lot. I like Spain a lot. I think Spain started kind of rocky, but I do think that they're a really good team. England is solid. Brazil is solid. But again, I ultimately do think that um, it's likely going to come down to these three teams of Argentina, France, and Spain. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top. And as we record more episodes of the podcast, we'll talk about that because by the time that episode 7 of the podcast drops, which will be next Friday, which will be July 3rd, we'll kind of have a bigger picture of who is going to be advancing to the round of 16. So that'll be fun, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, so my top three picks to win this year's FIFA World Cup are going to be Spain, France, and Argentina. And while they may be the, let's just say, betting favorites, just based on what I've seen, those are the teams that I think, um, have the best chance to do it. So um, maybe call me a box score watcher or just going off the odds. But just from what I've seen, those are the teams that I like the most to really have a chance to win this year's FIFA World Cup. Now, and the next thing I want to talk about is the Don Toliver concert, and I'm going to give you guys my review. Um, Obviously, in last week's episode, or in the last episode of the Loop podcast, I let you guys know that I was going to go see Don Toliver here in Chicago, and um, let me tell you guys, it was an incredible, incredible concert. I had an excellent time, um, and it was excellent. He actually announced the second leg of the tour. Um, he will be here again in Chicago in August. If you guys missed him the first time, I highly, highly recommend going to see him in August here in Chicago. I'm even considering going to see him again. The tour was excellent. The performance was excellent. He played a bunch of great, great songs, not just from the Octane album. He went back in his bag and was performing stuff from, you know, um, you know, uh, Hearthstone Psycho. He was performing stuff from Heaven or Hell. It was an excellent, excellent time. Don Toliver, very exciting and energetic performer. Definitely reminds me kind of like the Travis Scott kind of vibe with concerts as far as like high energy, good performance, things like that. So again, if you missed him in June here in Chicago, be sure to check him out in August. It is an excellent time, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed at all in that. Now, since we're on the topic of music, right? And I just went to go see Don Toliver. I got to ask you guys this next question. Who has the album of the year so far? And between for me, it's between Drake's Iceman and Don Toliver's Octane. And, you know, realistically, um, since these two albums have came out, they have been almost in a daily rotation. Like, especially since Iceman came out, um, I've been listening to a lot of that and a lot of Octane. Um, and I think that has definitely that listening um, those listening numbers for Don Toliver have definitely increased since I saw him a couple weeks ago now here in Chicago, because it just reminded me of how many good songs he has out on some of his other albums too. But Octane was an incredible album. Iceman was also incredible. Um, I also grew to really like some songs off of both Maid of Honor from Drake and Habibti from Drake. So um, yeah, I mean, I think both artists put out some really good work, and it makes me want to ask you guys, who do you think has the album of the year? And if it's not Drake and it's not Don Toliver, who do you think it is? I'd love to know. So let me know in the comments below who you guys think has the album of the year so far, and why. So feel free to let me know about that. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is GTA 6. So yeah, GTA 6. For all my guys who play the game, the PlayStation, and I guess if you play an Xbox, right? GTA 6 is supposed to drop this year. It is dropping this year, in November, and that was a game that, I've played GTA since I was a kid, right? Like, um, you know, with family, going over to their house or them coming to mine, and bringing over that GTA, and hopping on that for a few hours, and just wreaking some havoc, having a good time on GTA. And realistically, I would say that it didn't really feel real that the game was coming out because of how many times it's already been pushed back. I mean, obviously, it's been over a decade since GTA 5 came out, right? Um, and I think at this point, GTA 6, it just felt like a yeah, yeah, whatever. Like it was never going to come out, but it is officially coming out in November. And on top of that, I think what made it really feel real was the fact that they dropped the cover for it, and on top of that, they have officially put the pre-order out on like the PlayStation Store or the Microsoft Store, um, and it really just makes it feel more real. Um, so I'm excited because obviously I will be on GTA 6. Me and my buddies will definitely be grabbing that and causing some havoc in our free time as we explore the new world of GTA. So if you guys are excited for GTA 6, leave a comment below, like the video, share it with someone, and let them know that they should show some love to the podcast if they're also excited for GTA 6. It's going to be a good time. um, you know, the one thing I did see though was that there's obviously two versions dropping. One of them being the standard edition, and then the ultimate edition. The ultimate, just giving you guys a heads up, I saw that you won't have access to certain stores and things like that if you do not purchase the ultimate. So just a heads up. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be it's kind of crazy, right? But to be sitting here talking about GTA, I've never really talked about like games like that outside of maybe in the last episode when we talked about Madden, but that's because Caleb Williams was on the cover. But I feel like GTA is such a like who doesn't play GTA, right? For all my guys out there, um, you know, and for some of you ladies maybe as well. Um, GTA is a staple, so it'll be fun to see GTA 6 come out this year. Um, on PlayStation for sure, especially because I saw that they're also going to have some special features for PlayStation specifically. So that's going to be fun. Super excited about that. And if you guys are too, like I said, make sure you guys leave a like and a subscribe and a comment below on this video or on Instagram and TikTok too. Now, the next thing I do want to talk about is House of Dragons. So, House of Dragons season 3 just dropped on HBO. And if you guys don't know of House of the Dragon, it is basically a spinoff from Game of Thrones. So, if you watch Game of Thrones and you really enjoyed Game of Thrones, like I did, House of Dragons is out now. And you can watch, if you haven't watched the first 2 seasons, highly recommend. Um, because it's a fantastic show. Um, Season 3, very different from, in my opinion, from season 2, because season 2 definitely did not have the same feeling for me that season 1 did. I think season 1 was excellent. Season 2 was a lot of plot building and building up a certain story to hit in season 3. And based on, just the first episode alone, they hit it on the nail. Like, they hit it on the head. Um, Season 3, the first episode was an absolute banger. I cannot wait for episode 2 to drop this week, because I'm telling you, it was incredible. So they started off with a bang, and it can only go up from here too. So, again, very, very different from season 2. A lot more. It seems like we have a lot that we're going to be dealing with in season 3. So if you guys haven't watched House of the Dragon, but you have watched Game of Thrones, highly recommend you watch House of the Dragon. But also, if you haven't watched Game of Thrones, make sure that you go and watch it as soon as you can, because that show is absolutely incredible. Yes, I'm sure that you guys have heard that, maybe this could have been better, that could have been better in the final season. Overall, Game of Thrones is one of the best shows that I've ever watched. So make sure that you guys go check that show out if you haven't. And if you have and you are watching House of Dragons, let me know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe, all that stuff, because obviously, if you guys like it enough, maybe we'll do a little bit more of we could do like an episode recap or something like that. A quick little recap in these episodes of the podcast as well. So let me know what you guys think about that. But of course, you guys got to let me know if you want that or not. So make sure you let us know in the comments there too. Now, the last topic that I kind of have for the day is going to be a show on Apple TV called Widow's Bay. And I'm talking about this here because it was a show that I just wanted something new to watch with um, my girl. And we were trying to figure out a new show to watch and looking at reviews of shows. A show that I saw was Widow's Bay. And without giving too much, I'm gonna kind of give you guys the bio for it on, like, from Rotten Tomatoes. Um, so let me pull that up real quick. By the way, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 98% tomato score and a 93% popcorn score. So basically, it's about a New England mayor trying to boost tourism on his island, um, but he must navigate strange events suggesting that the island itself might be cursed. So it's on Apple TV, right? I know a lot of people don't have Apple TV. Turns out I've been paying for Apple TV for the last few months and didn't even know it. At least I'm finally putting it to use. But Widow's Bay has been an excellent show. I'm only on, I think, episode 4, about to start episode 5, and the entire season at this point is out on Apple TV. I believe it premiered in April of this year, so I believe the entire first season is out and ready to watch on Apple TV. So through the first 4 episodes, I've been hooked. So if you guys, it is, like I said, about maybe a cursed island, a little bit more of a horror kind of vibe, thriller kind of vibe. If you guys are into that kind of thing, um, it is definitely worth a watch. It has kept me very entertained through the first 4 episodes, so I highly recommend that show as well. It's been a very good watching experience for me and my girl. So if you just need a new show to watch, or you're kind of into that genre of TV or movies or things like that, definitely give it a watch and let me know what you guys think in the comments too. So I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on that one. Now, um, that's really all I have for this week, guys. Just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on what's been going on in sports, what's been going on music wise, like some thoughts I've had on music, and some TV shows that I've been watching and trying to put y'all on to as well, because obviously we're trying to share the love, and obviously we got to keep you guys in the loop, right? It's the whole point of this podcast, to keep you guys in the loop. So again, guys, we really appreciate you all for watching another episode of the Loop Podcast. And I hope that episode 7, we don't have to wait 2 weeks for to give that to you guys. But, hopefully we'll be back next week with another one. And, you know, again, you guys know it's coming. Um, it ain't nothing new, but go ahead and if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video what, maybe some things that you are looking forward to. Um, music wise, if you got an artist that you heard is dropping an album this year, or they've already announced an album dropping this year, and you think they can potentially have a run at the album of the year title, let me know in the comments below. If you've watched House of Dragons, if you have watched Widow's Bay, or you haven't watched them and you're looking to watch them and you have any questions, feel free to drop some comments below. Sports wise, if you got any questions about maybe why I felt the way about the Giannis trade or the LaMelo Ball trade, comment below. Go ahead and hit that, get in that little comment section, start letting me know what you guys think. And then again, whether it's here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, doesn't matter. I'll reply to you guys, and we'll have a conversation about anything that you guys want. So make sure you guys do that. But again, like this video, subscribe to the podcast, share with your friends, family, coworkers, and everybody else who needs to stay in the loop, because that's what we do here. We keep you guys in the loop. So now, thank you guys again for watching another episode of the Loop Podcast, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.